Then on Sports Central, I'll be giving you guys my Week 8 College Football Bowl projections for the 2022 season. And as we head into Week 8 and into the later parts of October, we're starting to figure out which teams are the main contenders of this college football season. So I'll be giving you guys my second edition of bowl projections here today. And we'll be predicting every single bowl matchup from the Group of 5 to the Power 5. So that said, let's get into it with our Group of 5 bowl games. We got the Bahamas Bowl being UTEP and Central Michigan. Cure Bowl, we got South Alabama and UTSA. South Alabama is turning out to have a great season so far. And I mean, considering South Alabama really hasn't had too much success in recent history, they're off to a great start in this season. And I've currently got them in the Cure Bowl versus UTSA. Fenway Bowl, we got Old Dominion and Memphis. Old Dominion is flexing in for an ACC team there. And I've currently got 9 teams projected to make bowls out of the ACC, which is maybe a bit lower than usual. So we are missing a couple of teams for the ACC bowl games, but I've got Old Dominion flexing into that position. They're going to take on Memphis. New Mexico Bowl, we got Air Force in North Texas. LA Bowl, we got Boise State and Washington State. Washington State I've currently got projected for 7 wins out of the Pac-12. They are a team that I could see at least 6 to 7. I mean, they're too good of a football team to not make a bowl game this season, I feel like. So it'd be a big disappointment if they didn't. So I got them taking on Boise State in the LA Bowl. Then in the Lending Tree Bowl, we got Middle Tennessee State and App State. Las Vegas Bowl, we got Washington and South Carolina. That would be a very interesting matchup. You got Washington, who is off to a great start in the season. They've taken a couple of losses since, but the Huskies are definitely still worthy of a halfway decent bowl game. And I got them taking on South Carolina. I've currently got Washington projected for 8 wins in this season, and South Carolina on the flip side I've got projected for 7. Frisco Bowl, we got Fresno State and Texas Tech. I've still got Texas Tech making a bowl game. I know that it doesn't really look like, or it looks like it might be a long shot to project Texas Tech for a bowl game right now, but I still feel like the Red Raiders, despite their record right now, are still a decent football team and very much capable of getting up to 6 wins, and that's what I've got them projected for right now. And I've got them in the Frisco Bowl taking on Fresno State. Myrtle Beach Bowl, we got Western Kentucky and Arkansas State. Idaho Potato Bowl, we got Ohio and Wyoming. And then the Boca Raton Bowl, we got UNLV and Miami, Ohio. And then in the New Orleans Bowl, we got UAB and Louisiana. Moving on, we got the Armed Forces Bowl. That's going to be between SMU and BYU. BYU is the pool team in that bowl game. And BYU, I still got potentially getting 8 to 9 wins in the season. Obviously, it's been a little bit of a disappointment so far this year. They've taken a couple of disappointing losses in the past few weeks, but I still got the Cougars in a halfway decent bowl game taking on SMU. Independence Bowl, we got Army and Tulane. Tulane's turning out to be a decent team this season. Gasparilla Bowl, we got UCF and Coastal Carolina. We got UCF flexing in for an ACC/SEC team there, as I've got the SEC currently projected to have 11 teams in bowl season, which I think there's 12 SEC games that are, or there are 12 games where SEC has an affiliation. So that is one less, and so I've got UCF flexing into that position. Once again, the ACC I've only got projected for 9 right now. And I've got them taking on Coastal Carolina. Hawaii Bowl, we got San Diego State and Rice. Quick Lane Bowl, we got Wisconsin and Kent State. Wisconsin is a team that has really struggled so far this season, and I've got them projected to get up to 6 wins, and I've got multiple teams out of the Big Ten. I've got 4 teams getting up to 6 wins right now. Wisconsin is one of them, and that's obviously a team that is struggling, especially on offense right now, but I still think the Badgers are capable of getting to a bowl game, even though it might not be the one that they'd like to get to. But then you got the Camellia Bowl. We got Liberty and Iowa, and that one, Liberty is looking pretty decent right now, and then you got Iowa, who I've got projected for 6 wins. And then First Responder Bowl, we got another 6-win Big Ten team here with Nebraska taking on Baylor, who I've got projected for 6 wins as well. I've got Baylor as, I mean, I said this in the offseason. I thought Baylor was going to be a bit of a disappointment this season, and so far they definitely have been. And so I got the Bears currently projected for 6 wins. They've got a tougher schedule down the stretch too, but I think they still get into a halfway decent bowl game to take on Nebraska. That would definitely be an interesting matchup between an underdog and a team that was a bit of a disappointment during the season there, if that were to happen. Birmingham Bowl, we got LSU and Georgia Southern. Georgia Southern turns out to be a decent team with Helton as their head coach, and they're taking on LSU. The Tigers out of the SEC, I've got LSU currently projected for 7 wins in the SEC as well. Then you got the Guaranteed Rate Bowl, a Big 12, Big 10 matchup between Kansas and Michigan State. I've got Kansas now at 7 wins for the season, taking on Michigan State, who I've got currently for 6 as well. That's the fourth 6-win team that I've got out of the Big Ten right now. I think Kansas is obviously, they took a loss last week to Oklahoma, so that bumps them down a position. But still, getting into the Guaranteed Rate Bowl to take on a talented Michigan State team, that'd be a really intriguing matchup there. Nonetheless, honestly, any bowl game that Kansas is in this season is going to be an interesting one because, it's been forever since Kansas has gotten to a bowl game. Then you got the Military Bowl, Duke and Houston. And then the Liberty Bowl, we got Oklahoma and Arkansas. Oklahoma I've got currently for 7 wins, taking on Arkansas, who I've got also for 7 wins. Both teams kind of disappointments in this season, but that would definitely be a great matchup there. And then the Holiday Bowl, we got Miami and Utah. Utah currently got projected for 9 wins. Miami is up to 7 right now. So that'd be kind of or you'd expect Utah to be favored by a decent amount if that matchup were to happen. But I do think, honestly, in the Pac-12, there's 4 teams that are, I'd say, far and away the best teams in the conference. You got USC, Oregon, UCLA, and Utah. Those are the 4, and then it drops off a little bit. Then you got Oregon State, Washington, etc. So Utah getting in the Holiday Bowl could consider to be a bit of a disappointment, but nonetheless, it's still a halfway decent bowl game, and you'd be taking on a good Miami team. Moving on, we got the Texas Bowl between Kansas State and Texas A&M. Both teams, Texas A&M used to be in the Big 12. They used to be a matchup we'd see, so it would be an interesting matchup there. The Aggies I've got projected for 8 wins, and K-State I've got up to 9. So I do think K-State finishes strong. And I've actually got K-State projected as the 3rd place team in the Big 12, so the first one out of making the Big 12 title game, even though they're definitely capable of still competing for a Big 12 championship. Pinstripe Bowl, we got Florida State and Minnesota. I've got Minnesota as 3rd place in the Big 10 West behind Purdue and Illinois. And then Florida State out of the ACC I've got currently sitting at 7 wins. And then the Cheez-It Bowl, we got Pittsburgh and Texas. I got Texas finishing strong as well. I do. Obviously, K-State, I've got them over Texas. Both teams are at 9-3. And then Pitt, I have got at 8 wins, even though, that's a team I could still see getting 9 wins this season, but I've got them currently projected at 8. Alamo Bowl, we got TCU and UCLA. We got the runner-up of the Big 12 taking on what could potentially be the runner-up of the Pac-12, but I've got UCLA just missing that Pac-12 championship game. But that would still be an outstanding matchup there if we were to see TCU and UCLA there. Duke's Mayo Bowl, we got Illinois and Syracuse. 2 teams that have been surprise teams so far this season. Syracuse I've got finishing 4th in the ACC with 9 wins right now. And then Illinois I've got 8 wins in the Big 10. And I definitely could see Illinois actually winning that West Division. It's definitely a possibility, but I've currently got Purdue projected to win that division with 9 wins. But nonetheless, that'd still be a great game there if we saw Illinois and Syracuse, 2 surprise teams facing off there. Sun Bowl, we got NC State and Oregon State. I've got both teams projected for 8 wins right now and also 5th in their respective conferences. That'd be a great matchup there. You got NC State, who is taking a couple of losses, but I still think they're capable of getting up to 8 to 9 wins. I've currently got them projected for 8. Gator Bowl, we got Notre Dame and Florida. I've got Notre Dame flexing in for a Big 10 team there. I think Notre Dame is still capable of 7 to 8 wins, and that puts them in a decent bowl game against a Florida team that I've currently got projected for 7. Arizona Bowl, we got San Jose State and Toledo, and then the Music City Bowl, we got Maryland and Mississippi State. I've got Maryland finishing strong here, getting up to 7 wins. We could potentially see them get to 8, but I've currently got them at 7, and taking on Mississippi State, who I've also got projected for 7 wins right now. So that's let's go ahead and get into the bigger bowl games here. We got the Citrus Bowl and the Relia Quest Bowl that we'll be projecting first. We got Kentucky and Purdue in this one. I've got Purdue as the West champion and finishing out as pretty much 4th overall in the Big 10, despite being runner-up in the championship game. I've got Purdue at 9 wins, and I think Purdue is just all around the most complete team in the Big 10. I'm not completely sold on Illinois yet. I think the Fighting Illini are very capable of winning that West Division, but as of right now, I feel more comfortable picking Purdue, and in this case, that puts them in the Citrus Bowl, taking on Kentucky, who I've got currently projected for 8 wins in the SEC, but Kentucky is still a team that I could see upwards of 9. Moving on to the Relia Quest Bowl, this is formerly the Outback Bowl. We got Wake Forest and Ole Miss in this one. Wake Forest I've got as 3rd place in the ACC at 9 wins, and Ole Miss is currently projected for 10 wins. I've got Ole Miss taking a couple of losses down the stretch. They're currently undefeated at 7-0, but I do think Ole Miss once again takes a couple of losses that prevents them from getting to a New Year's Six bowl game, but this is still a pretty outstanding bowl game here, and going up against a Wake Forest team that is one of the top teams in the ACC. I'd say it's a good matchup. Moving on to some of your New Year's Six games now. We got the Orange Bowl. This one's going to be between North Carolina and Penn State. I've got North Carolina as pretty much the runner-up in the ACC right now at 10-2. I got North Carolina finishing strong here. I've got them taking on Penn State at 10-2 as well. I think Penn State is, despite taking a loss to Michigan this past weekend, I still am confident that Penn State gets up to 10 wins, and they can still get to a New Year's Six bowl game here. In this case, it'll be the Orange Bowl. Moving on to the Sugar Bowl, we got Alabama in this one taking on Oklahoma State, the Big 12 champion. Oklahoma State I do have finishing up at 10-2 on the season, taking on Alabama, who I've got winning out in the season, but I do have Alabama losing in the SEC championship right now, probably to Georgia. In this case, that put Alabama at 2 losses, and I'd be surprised if they made that 4th position, especially if Tennessee is a 1-loss team heading into the postseason. So I've got Alabama falling to the Sugar Bowl, taking on Oklahoma State. Moving on to the Rose Bowl, we got Michigan and USC. Michigan, this is the same as last week. I've got Michigan as basically second place in the Big Ten. I have them losing to Ohio State in a couple of weeks, or in a few weeks, which prevents them from getting to Indianapolis. But they still, as the second best team in the conference, get to the Rose Bowl and take on USC, who I've got currently projected to be the Pac-12 champion with only 1 loss. Then we got the Cotton Bowl. I got Oregon and Cincinnati in this one. Oregon is the second place team in the Pac-12, taking on Cincinnati, who I've got as the best Group of 5 team. Honestly, the Group of 5 really doesn't have a big standout this season. It's probably Cincinnati, honestly, if anyone. I think Cincinnati finishes strong here, and even though they definitely will get to the college football playoff this season like they did last year, I do think Cincinnati finishes strong and gets to the Cotton Bowl to take on Oregon. So that's it. Let's get to your college football playoff semifinal games here, starting out with your 1-4 semifinal, and that's going to be the Peach Bowl, it seems like right now. We got Georgia and Tennessee. This will be a rematch of a game that we're going to see in a couple of weeks. We got Georgia, who I've got finishing out completely undefeated. I've got them beating Tennessee in a couple of weeks, and then I've got them winning the SEC championship, getting to the Peach Bowl to take on Tennessee, who I've got as pretty much second place in the SEC right now, despite them not going to be winning the division. I got them with an 11-1 record. Their 1 loss is going to be to Georgia in a couple of weeks, and I've still got this being a rematch of that game in the Peach Bowl. This would be a pretty outstanding match. You got Tennessee, who has proven to be an outstanding team in this season. Hendon Hooker is a very real Heisman contender. It's starting to as he's starting to emerge. So we got Georgia and Tennessee in this one. And then in the other semifinal game, we got Ohio State and Clemson. We got Ohio State as the Big Ten champion and Clemson as the ACC champion. I got Clemson finishing undefeated, and same with Ohio State. So this would be a rematch of a game that we've seen many times in the past in the college football playoff semifinals. And I've got Ohio State taking on Clemson here for a chance to get to the national title. So that's going to wrap it up for today. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below on these bowl projections, and I appreciate you guys watching as always. Stay tuned for more from All Sports Central. Catch you on the next one.